Hey, what's up, guys? So I'm coming to you with another video. This one is the Charlo versus Derevyanchenko breakdown. Now, these two guys are going to co-main event a Showtime pay-per-view on Saturday, September 26th. Again, on Showtime pay-per-view. It's going to be for the WBC Middleweight Championship. That's 160 pounds. These two guys coming in, respectively, are my number 3 and 4 middleweights in the world. I got Charlo at number 3 right now and Derevyanchenko at number 4, and it's razor thin close between the two of them. I think the fact that Charlo is the world champion is probably the only thing that separates these two, to be honest, heading in. But biggest fight of Charlo's career by far. It really is. Let's jump into the two and see, and also make my prediction. We're going to do breakdown what each guy has to do to win the fight, how they can win the fight, and what happens if they win, what happens if they lose, sorry, and just stuff like that. But let's see what each guy coming in, and then I'll make my prediction at the end of the video. So we're going to kick it off with Charlo. I think he might be the favorite, but he's a champion. So let's take a look at him first. Undefeated. It's going to be a second world title defense. This is by far the biggest fight of his career right here. Charlo's biggest fight prior to this, I mean, you can argue that. You can argue it was the Austin Trout fight. You can argue it was the Julian J. Rock Williams fight. But neither one of those have the magnitude of this. This is the first time that Charlo's coming in my opinion, that he's not a clear favorite. I think even in the Austin Trout fight, I think a lot of people thought Trout would give him issues, but I think a lot of people thought he was going to win that fight without any issues, without a problem. Like some people thought because of Trout's style, but I think a lot of people thought he was going to weather that storm. And since then, especially since he moved up to middleweight, he just hasn't done anything. He's basically handed the middleweight title. When Canelo became franchise champion or whatever, he was the interim champ. And, he hasn't really beaten anybody. It was an impressive win last year against Dennis Hogan, knocking him out in 7 rounds, especially after Hogan gave Jaime Munguia hell at 154 for that title. But Hogan, what you could tell, was just a little middleweight. He wasn't a big guy. And he was coming in against Charlo, who is a big middleweight, So, it was just a big size difference heading into that fight. It was an impressive win, no doubt, but Hogan, didn't have the pedigree. Munguia, say what you want about Munguia. I think Munguia overlooks a lot of opponents. I don't think he comes in very disciplined and on weight like he should. I think he struggles with weight. So I really think that's why Hogan probably gave him a good fight. But Hogan really, I don't know. I thought he was going to get knocked out against Charlo. I thought maybe he could give Charlo some fits, but he just didn't. And Charlo was the bigger man, got a nice knockout win. So, again, this is his toughest opponent. So, first question out the gate for Jermell Charlo. What does Jermell Charlo need to do to win this fight, to beat Sergey Derevyanchenko? What style does he need to have? Well, I think he needs a box, but I think he needs to make a statement early to Derevyanchenko that he's not going to get bullied in that ring. I think he needs to try to hurt Derevyanchenko early and test Derevyanchenko's chin. I think that's his best guess. His best bet to knock Derevyanchenko out is going to be doing it early, in my opinion, because I'm not sure he has the wherewithal to dig deep into a fight and do it late against Derevyanchenko. If this fight goes late, he's going to have to dig deep and win a decision, in my opinion, in box. But I think he needs to kind of do both boxing and punching in this fight. But again, early, I think he needs to be a little bit aggressive, not careless, but aggressive. Derevyanchenko's got good pop, but he's not a huge power puncher. And Charlo has always shown a good chin so far. So I think Charlo can take some risk early to try to hurt Derevyanchenko and try to get him out of there early to see if that's possible. But again, if this fight goes towards the middle of the fight, gets into past the 4th, 5th round to where it looks like it's going to go into the later rounds, he needs to start to box and conserve his energy, because we know Derevyanchenko can fight late. So he needs to do that. I think he needs to, his style overall needs to be stay on the outside, box and punch, the slash of the two, but and set his punches up well. And the Charlos do that well against the limited opposition they face, though. But that's my opinion, his biggest key to winning the fight. Now, can Charlo win by knockout? I think he can. I think he can knock Derevyanchenko out. I do. But Derevyanchenko's a tough motherfucker. He is. So he's going to have to hurt him and not do what Triple G did, let him back in the fight. He's going to have to hurt him, and I think he's going to have to jump on him and finish him right there. If he can't end it on once he gets up, he better hope he has time. He better jump on him. And if Derevyanchenko makes it to the next round, he needs to jump on him again. Try not to wear himself out, of course, but I think he needs to try to get him out of there once he gets hurt, because I don't know if he's going to be able to hurt him twice. You know, Triple G wasn't able to do that. So it's going to be tough. But yes, I do think he can win by knockout. Can Charlos win? I don't know why I keep saying Charlos. Can Charlo win by a decision over Derevyanchenko? Yes. But I don't believe it's going to be a wide decision. I don't think he can outbox Derevyanchenko and win a wide decision. He might be able to edge one out, but it's going to be tough. So, yes, I think he can win a decision, but it would be a close decision. So, yeah, I don't think he can win a unanimous wide decision. Okay, what happens for Charlo if he wins the fight? It's going to be huge for him. You know, of course, a decisive victory will matter, but really, I don't think he needs a decisive victory over Derevyanchenko, and here's why. Danny Jacobs didn't have a clear, decisive victory over Derevyanchenko, and Triple G, most people feel he got gifted a decision against Derevyanchenko. A lot of people thought Derevyanchenko won that fight. So if Charlo just proves that he's on the level of Jacobs and Triple G, that's a victory for Charlo, in my opinion. But if he wins decisively, and knocks him out, or wins a one-sided decision, man, Charlo is skyrocketing. He might as well, once Canelo makes schedules the next fight at 168, and then he might jump over Triple G if he can knock out Derevyanchenko. He just might. I'm gonna be honest. So yeah, the sky's the limit for Charlo right here if he can win a decisive victory. But any kind of victory, the sky's the limit for Charlo, in my opinion. I really think that. I really believe that he can do it. So if he pulls off a decisive win or any kind of win, it's going to be a huge plus for Charlo. Now, what happens if he loses? You know, I don't know, to be honest. I don't think many people are going to be surprised if if Charlo loses this fight. I don't think many people would be surprised. But I guess it would just depend on how he loses, because, you know, Derevyanchenko's the real deal and everybody knows it. So if he were to lose again, I don't think it's going to be a shock, and I think they'll, you know, he can bounce back. Yeah, of course, the people are going to keep talking shit about that he's not good enough, that he's not on the level. I mean, that's going to happen if he loses this fight, that he's not as good as they make it out to be. But I don't think it's going to hurt his career all that much. I think he'll be able to bounce back, and it really would be just depending on how he loses. If Derevyanchenko whips his ass, people are going to question that he's just not as good as we thought. You know, if Derevyanchenko barely beats him, then he knows he's at least on that kind of level, because he's on the same level as Triple G then. He's on the same level as Daniel Jacobs. He just didn't get the close decisions that those guys got. So I don't think a loss to Derevyanchenko is going to hurt his career all that much. It's going to derail him, of course, but I don't think it's going to hurt him all that much. Now let's look at Sergey Derevyanchenko, what he's got going on. Well, Derevyanchenko is coming off, it's a moral victory. Yes, it's not the biggest victory of his career. That was his win over Jack Colkay last year, when he won a decision. Or his win over Toriano Johnson to lock up the shot at Daniel Jacobs originally. But, you know, he's coming out back-to-back years around the same time of year. He lost to Jacobs by a close split decision 2 years ago in 18. And then last year in 2019, he lost a razor-thin unanimous decision to Triple G in a fight a lot of people thought he won. So we know that this guy is on that top-tier level. We know that for sure. He's on that top-tier level, He's a very good fighter, and we know what he can do. I believe Derevyanchenko is very good at everything. He's not great at any one thing, but he's very good at everything. He can box, he can punch, he can get inside, he's aggressive, decent amount of power. This guy can pretty much do it all, but he's not great at any one thing. So what do I think Derevyanchenko needs to do to win this fight? What does he need to do? What kind of style does he need to employ? I think he needs to get early on. His strategy needs to be to get inside of Charlo. Does not need to hesitate and let Charlo extend those punches. Again, the Charlos, their power comes from their extension. They're very similar to Deontay Wilder, in my opinion. They have to extend into their punches, get long, and land the full punch in order to hurt you. So he needs to take that length away and get inside of Jermall Charlo. And that's not just to do that. It's to test Charlo's stamina, how well he can take that. He needs to push him. He needs to do what he did. But he also got caught against Triple G. Triple G's a better boxer than Charlo, though. So if he can avoid getting caught by that crisp shot out of nowhere and really test him, fuck you, dude. And really test him, then he can go a long way. So I really can't wait to see how he does that. But I think he needs to push him. He needs to take him into the deep waters and drown him. And I think he can either stop him late or win a clear decision is how he could do that. Now, can he stop him? Yeah. I don't know if he can hurt Charlo. Charlo does have a good chin. I don't know if he can hurt him and stop him early, but I definitely think he can wear him down and stop him late to win that fight. Can he win a decision? Absolutely. I think he could outwork Charlo here, beat him up, and win a clean decision. It could be close, but I think he can win a clean decision for sure. Now, what happens for Derevyanchenko if he wins this fight? You know what? If he beats Charlo and becomes a world champion, he's sitting right there at the top of the division. This, in my opinion, might be a setup because I think Triple G, there's a good chance he moves up to 168 to chase Canelo heading into next year. And he's done with middleweight. So this one could be basically the interim fight to determine the next number one middleweight in the world. So a win over Charlo would be huge. It'd be the biggest of his career. He'd win his first world title, and he would be just on everybody's lips at that point. It'd be huge for Derevyanchenko. Be just absolutely huge. How he wins wouldn't matter, in my opinion. If he wins decisively, they would just skyrocket his stock even more. But if he wins even a close one, it's big for him because he's coming in kind of the underdog, So yeah, definitely. Can he win or what happens to him if he loses? Depends on how he loses, really. If he gets embarrassed, if he gets knocked out decisively, if he loses a one-sided decision, he's going to go to the back, is what's going to happen. But if he loses a close one, if he gets just caught and hurt after really pouring it on, it's going to hurt him, but not as bad. And if he loses a close decision, he's pretty much going to stay where he is in that division, which he's not a big name, but he will have established himself against another top-tier fighter again. And you're just going to know he's a dangerous motherfucker. But here's what he risked by losing a close fight is some of these top-tier guys might not want to fight him because he's high risk, low reward. Not a big name you can make a lot of money on, and he's taking the top elite fighters deep. So, if he were to lose, I'm not saying he should push to lose a decisive fight against Charlo because nobody would want that. But that might actually be better for him if he lost decisively because guys might want to take the risk and think they could beat him later. That's what I'm trying to say by it. And then, final question. Who do I think is going to win this fight between Jermall Charlo and Sergey Derevyanchenko? Man, I've been going back and forth on this one. Really hard one for me to pick. Whew. I'm going with Sergey Derevyanchenko to pull off the win. I don't know why. The performance he had against Triple G, watching that last year, the way he pushes, the way he took shots, the way he kept grinding, the way he kept coming. I think it was more Triple G overlooking him a little bit. And Triple G's age. But Charlo, he's good. I just never thought he was great. And I think he's been brought along too easily, if that's, and he hasn't been tested. And I think he's going to get tested, and it's all going to come together in this fight. I think he should have taken better opposition before stepping up against a guy like Derevyanchenko. He should have built himself to the the level of Derevyanchenko, and he didn't do that, and I think it's going to hurt him. So I think Derevyanchenko is going to take him deep. He's either going to stop him late or he's going to beat him by a clear decision that nobody's going to argue about. It could be close. Charlo could knock him out and shut me up. But I'm going with Derevyanchenko to pull off the upset and the win and become the new WBC middleweight champion. So that's it. That's my breakdown for Charlo versus Derevyanchenko. Hope you guys enjoyed it. True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.